Hello and welcome to Workplace Makers with Nina Fountain. This is the podcast that gets to know the people creating workplaces we aspire to. It's about achieving the ultimate win, a workplace people are drawn to wherever they work from, and discovering how we can remove limitations to enable people to be their best through workplace innovation and design. I'm your host, modern workplace consultant Nina Fountain. Join me as I unlock the secrets of attractive, productive, and engaging modern workplaces. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Ivan Chu. Ivan is a senior workplace strategist and originally a quantity surveyor and then a project manager. So he and I are doing very similar work, but coming from different backgrounds. And to give you a flavor of Ivan's work now, he recently completed a 3.5-year stint as the head of projects and workplace at the Australian National Maritime Museum, managing teams in facilities, change management and projects, in infrastructure fit out and exhibitions. And he's currently assisting an international technology company with their office fit out program and workplace advisory. His education background is in building with a Bachelor of Building and Construction Economics, a Master's in Project Management as well, and a postgrad in Energy Studies and Innovation. I'd love to dig into that one. Qualifications for him as well are in adult training, counselling, and honours an in psychology. So, Ivan, it's a thrill to have you on the show.
Thanks, Nina. Love to be on the podcast. Thank you.
So great to have you. So, tell us a little around your psychology background. You wrote a thesis on desk types. Now, that's an unusual thesis, as a lot of theses are. What got you interested in desk types?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess with my background in construction and property and workplace strategy, the notion is, everyone's in the initial piece, open planning is the critical thing, like a few years ago, and then obviously activity-based working now, and the choice of desks as well. So okay, let's test this thesis. We got data from, I think, 280 respondents as well. So the results were that it's essentially there's two areas that gives the most return for money. Let's call it that. And it's the low partition kind of open desk opposite each other. That's one of them. And the other one's actually quiet rooms. And interestingly, based on productivity for creative thinking, the low partition one, there's a high choice. It was actually significant under the statistical review analysis. That was great for creative and collaboration thinking. So where you need to come up with a common solution. Whereas the offices, which is more soundproof, it's great for that dedicated work. Now, in between, it wasn't significantly that the results amounted to the value for money, so to speak. But again, this is only one part of a thesis. I think it needs to look at a bigger scale of things as to what about the other elements of activity-based working, right? This is purely just on desktop. So we know that we definitely need that collaboration space of low partition and also more quiet rooms and more offices. I want to stay away from the word offices because it dictates ownership, but let's call it quiet rooms. But that was the finding.
So interesting. So if we can visualize the low partition desk, what we're meaning by that is a partition that might be 10, 15, 30 centimeters high.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 10, 15 centimeters high between the desks facing opposite each other. And it's basically just a long run.
So the low partition desks were best for collective creativity and
Correct.
the quiet rooms were best for individual productivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And that was based on St. Catherine Dweck's, I think, idea of the fixed mindset. It's based on her for the creative thinking aspect because she proposed different creative thinking words, very much internal creative thinking versus collaborative creative thinking as well.
That's so interesting. There's such a difference between the way people think when they interact with each other and the way they think when they're alone. That's so interesting. Carol Dweck is
Correct,
who
yeah.
we're talking about. I'm going to dig into fixed mindset with you a little more.
Sure.
But firstly, I'd be interested to understand, how did you get to this point of being interested in the workplace and what got you started?
Well, predominantly from my origins as a quantity surveyor, then project manager, often the quantity surveyor and the project managers brought in like halfway through or towards the end of the actual delivery.
Yeah.
And throughout that phase in my career, I was sitting there going, it's so frustrating. You're not doing a proper analysis, a proper dive design and fit out wise for the culture, for the staff. Because what happens if you don't do that? At the end of the project, yeah, if it goes well, everyone's happy that is delivered a project and it's all new, the whole opening the package endorphins rush, it's new. But then after a while, when people are interacting with it more, the complaints start happening. It doesn't work
Mm.
with how they normally work, or they haven't been trained on how it should operate. The short term win is that you deliver a project, right? A win, tick, and everyone's excited by it. Unfortunately, the long term isn't always factored in. And that's where workplace strategy comes in. You get in early and you find the data and how people work and what the strategy is, and then you design for it and then you roll it out. So then it's not just a quotation marks easy win, short term, but long term. And that will help the business and not just the business, but the people as well.
So you were seeing as a quantity surveyor that you could tick the boxes, bring the price down to within budget and achieve that project outcome, but really wanted that longer term result.
Yeah, absolutely. And essentially, if you look at it just from a cost perspective, from a QS point of view, right? It is value for money. The reason because you're getting the right equipment that you don't need to replace so often, or the right fit out.
Absolutely. When you get that fit. So you have this brilliant analogy about the shoe, and I'll let you tell it. What is
The shoe.
what's the connection between the workplace and shoes?
So if you think that's the foot is your organizational culture, right? Your business. When you go buy a shoe, we try the shoe if we can to make sure that the shoe fits. It feels comfortable. We do a bit of a walk around. It doesn't pinch anywhere. It's perfect, right? Perfect for that purpose. So if you're buying a walking shoe, you're going to walk. You're buying a running shoe, you're going to run. You're buying cleats for sport. That's what you use it for. But if it's your organizational culture, why don't people do enough to get the right fit? Because if your organizational culture, if it doesn't fit the shoe, so to speak, then ultimately, as you go along with the business all the years and so forth, one or the other things will happen. Either your organization's going to suffer, you may be injured, as in productivity, efficiency, collaboration, that may take a dive and may be harder to rectify later on, or the workspace gets damaged and is not as efficient. So it's finding the right shoe for the right foot, so to speak. And particularly with smaller businesses or in more of a dynamic market, when you need to pivot or hit the market running, you need the flexibility of that workplace or that shoe to be able to pivot, right? You don't want to basically keep buying new shoes or keep refreshing the space. But at the same time, you don't want to injure your foot because
Mm.
that's going to be a lot harder to heal and repair, which is your organizational culture and your staff. You end up working differently slightly for a longer period, or in this case, you end up operating maybe not at peak efficiency for the business.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's why I love the analogies. That just makes it quite clear what workplace does for us. We were talking about the different responses people have to the workplace and how workplace strategy is part of a new design sometimes, and other times it's not. What do you notice in your clients and in other workplaces in terms of the way they think about the workplace and the mindset they bring to that? What psychological traits do you see in the leaders of organizations that do a really good job, that do create this attractive workplace experience?
Well, typically, you'll find that the C suite that are more successful, not just their career, but also in the running of the business, tends to have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And the reason for that is they're able to pivot where the requirements are. So whether it's we need to change the environment or change policies as we go along, because the market forces will dictate that and competition, that's why they're successful as where they are. Translate that growth mindset to the workspace, your critical resource, and that's what they call it, human resources, and now people and culture, is your staff. Your staff are the ones that are producing the output, giving that deliverables to help the business keep growing and bring in that income, that turnover. So you have to treat them well. There's a certain element of commercial decision. I'm not saying give a fruit basket every day for each individual person, but it's being mindful of what is needed, how they operate. And it's about encouraging that feeling that they are valued in the workplace. For C suite, the good ones, that will take the approach to look at the workplace are the ones that look at it holistically.
Mm. You're working from a workplace strategy and from a
Mhm.
project management point of view. But do you ever find that you're in a conversation with a client where they need to be convinced of the value of their people to
Oh,
business?
absolutely. I won't mention who,
Yeah.
but there was one C-suite workshop that I did to the C-suite to find out what are their bugbears, what their strategy, what do they want outcome from the business, and also get a pulse check on what do they think the staff are like, the organization. Unfortunately, when I asked that question, it came back, oh, the bunch of complainers, all they want is more money. If we give them more money, they'll be happier. And we just don't want to give rise for the chance to complain or to remind them that the workplace isn't that great. Now, that's a very dangerous mindset because then you're hiding away from all the facts or what
Mm.
levers you can pull to make it better. So, the notion to get them across the line is okay, well, what's the biggest concerns then? The biggest concerns for this C suite was operation and productivity. And that's where it is, right? If you're concerned with operation and productivity, operation cost and productivity, then it's about framing how people work, which will increase the productivity, also increase the efficiency and the collaboration component to it as well. Um, and if there's data showing that from similar organizations as well, then they're more willing to come on board to those C suites that are on the edge, on the fence. If you give them the data to support it, they're more inclined to go, okay, cool, I can rely on this data. It's already someone there. They can stand behind that as well.
And that will take them, in your experience, from being unconvinced about the value of investing in people through the workplace experience through to then being ready to look at what it will cost.
Absolutely. When you mention cost, often they go, oh, I need to spend $2 million. I need to spend $3 million. Or, but Ivan, how much is it going to cost me? And I'm all about honesty. And I'll tell them, I don't know. At this point in time, I don't know how much it's going to cost you. It depends on what levers you pull, right? There's low hanging fruit that gives the maximum value you can do. Or if you want to invest in a long term, there's other things you can do as well. So it may be from 20K, 30K, depending on the size of the organization, to up to 2 mil, 3 mil. Don't know. It just depends on what's the appetite for change and what is the ideal budget you want to spend on. It's about
Mm.
value for money.
Yeah, it's a little, again, like the shoes. You can go in and get something that's cheap that'll last for one party, or you can go in and get something that will be higher quality and last you for a really long time.
Absolutely. I want that. I want those shoes with the lights at the bottom, but I know that's not appropriate for me, so I won't get those shoes.
I saw some Ugg boots with lights on the bottom the other
S-
day.
Send me the link later.
Fantastic. Let's dive a little more into how you create that positive workplace experience. So, what's the process you take people through in terms of designing a workplace for them?
Absolutely. So typically we do a C-suite workshop to find out what their strategy is, what they prefer, there's appetite for change, because then we know how much data we need or what type of data we need to get from the staff workshops. We also do a survey out as well, an introduction as well, saying that, hey, we're going to get some data. It's anonymous data. We don't want them to feel victimized. So it's a safe environment to share the information. We'd send that out, and then we have the workshops to get the data in. And the workshops, it's not just about complaints. It has to be very clear. It's not about complaints. It's what works, what can be improved, and what should really stop, in a nutshell. And run these workshops between an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what we need data out from. And it could be multiple, depending on the size of the organization. Once we get that data, then we process it and we see the linkages, we see themes in it and cause and effect, right? For example, if people are not unhappy or not productive because there's too much noise around, then that's the cause and effect. Too much noise, they're not productive, they can't concentrate. What's the potential solution? Quiet rooms or headsets, right? That's a very off the top of my head solution. But without that data, once we get all the data together, then I put together the recommendations back to the C-suite, including the background, how we ran the workshop, and also then the recommendations from low-hanging fruit recommendations to the upper end. And then I get them to nominate the priorities across the C-suite individually. What do they want to enact? And how wedded are they to that idea? And how much do they want to get involved in it? And they get all the information and then disseminate back again. As a C-suite collectively, you've said from the individual priority list or votes, you want to do this, this, and this. And then this bit would roughly cost you this amount, and phase two might cost you this amount. And then we had the designer on board, and we briefed the designer, and the designer will then do a test fit or concept based on the first one and open for discussion for C-suite only, not for the staff yet.
That data collection point is quite critical. You and I have talked about how we do see some professionals giving the advice that they know, in inverted commas, what leaders should do with their workplace because they've asked people and they know what people said. They've got a spreadsheet of responses here. So
Mm,
that's what we should do. So,
mm.
what's your take on that?
My take essentially, if you ask the staff how they want to work, is basically asking for a shopping list. The problem with the shopping list is that there's no justification for it. Hey, you know what? I would love a Ferrari, but what's the justification? I can't afford it. So why do I want a Ferrari? Is it because I want to look cool? I want to drive fast? I can't do that in a traffic jam. So it's more about my ego, right? Now, in this aspect for the workplace, some C-suite are afraid of running that data collection. And the reason because they're afraid to unearth all the bad, like in quotation marks, the bad news of the organization. But, and this is to the C-suite out there, the data presented isn't bad. It's just data. And the interpretation of it and the narrative of it and the dissemination of it will dictate whether there's opportunity to change or there's something that you can live with. It's not bad and it's not good. It's just data.
It's a great point. It's about how people respond to it. The emotional attachment they have to different elements of it might be part of why they're seeing it as good or bad. Perhaps they're wanting something to be a different reality than what they think might be surfaced, in which case this is a great opportunity to then look at where the specific barriers are and design a solution that's going to deliver on that.
Sometimes we think we know what is causing something, but that's just anecdotal. There's no facts and figures behind it. If we can get that, it's much more powerful to make the decision. But on the flip, the other side as well, where you mentioned the narrative, is also much more powerful to enact that change process. To go, hey, organization, hey, staff, from the data we've collected, this is what you've said, and this is why we're making the environment like this to cater for your workflow needs and so forth.
Let's stay with data just for a minute.
Mm.
I do think this is an area where professionals like you and I have got such a contribution to make, in that the quality of the data that people are relying on sometimes for their workplace decisions is lacking.
Mm.
You've talked about not wanting to get a shopping list, but instead taking a different approach. What are some of the things that you do to get that high quality data that you can rely on?
Essentially, is about both qualitative and quantitative data. So the quantitative data are meeting rooms, numbers, desk numbers, breakout spaces, numbers, and all that stuff, right? Car parks, even if you look at the bigger precinct area. But then the qualitative data itself, that resonates more with the staff because they get to say what they really feel, what they really think. And it's like qualitative data. You can see the themes. My non-work background is improv. So I use some improv techniques where I get them to tell a story, go around each table to tell that story. And the first person will set the scene. That's one line. That's all they need is one line. And then the second person will say what the problem is or what the bugbear is. And they might go, come to the office at 9 a.m. The second line will go, but I can never find a desk, right? That's B. The third person then will go, what is the positive outcome of that? The person might say, that allows me to sit in the collaboration area in the breakout space to work and interact with my colleagues. And that goes around the table, goes around the whole group, and we write that down. So we can see themes, and we're also setting in the breadcrumbs for that mindset for the staff. They go, yeah, there is. You know what? It's not all negative. There is a positive to this change. There is a positive to this workspace. The creative component to that gets the juices flowing, but also brings along the journey as well.
And there's a lot of what you've said there. One of the podcasts on Workplace Makers was with Dave Mastronardi from Game Storming. We talked about the play
Mm.
aspect. When we're in this creative, playful mode, we see things differently. We come up with new solutions, and we're no longer constrained by the experience that we brought to the room. So there's a lot in what you're saying that helps people to shift, to see things differently, to now start to feel like, oh, the organization's engaging with me. We might be able to do things differently, and starting a really powerful change journey potentially.
Yep, correct. And with that whole creative component to it, the critical thing is, you know, there's always going to be one or two people that will say the wildest things in this narrative thing. And it is not the idea to criticize and go, no, 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 come on, that's preposterous. Raw, we can't have that. It's taking that in because it gives them the idea that they're free to contribute, right? And the others won't be as preposterous as them. They'll be more aligned to what we're trying to do. The second bit to it as well is that there's no really any silly questions. All of us have got our specialties, but the people that using the space knows the space the best.
That's fundamentally where that great data comes from, isn't it? Getting to the
Mm.
cold face, getting to the experience people are actually having, and giving them the space to talk about it.
Yeah.
And do you have a view on surveys and how useful they are?
This is the most important thing. You have to be seen to act on the survey. If it's just data collection and not coming back to the staff on the results, then you're not going to get good answers and you're going to erode trust from the staff.
Because people will say they never do anything with the results. Not
Yeah.
another survey. We never hear what they did with it.
Mm.
And so if you're coming off the back of 3 or 4 surveys, your survey doesn't rate. But when you run these very more positive, engaging, creative experiences in workshops, not only is the quality of the data more rich, but you get better participation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so tell us there about some examples where this process has added value to a business. I know you and I have talked about a coal plant that had some issues around underutilized meetings and
Mm.
other issues to do with meetings. What was the result for their business?
Sure. Look, this was a coal power plant in regional Australia. Their issue was that the staff felt that the meetings they had were kind of pointless because no one showed up. It was poorly conducted. The space wasn't fit for purpose as well. And people were just disinterested. And the output and productivity wasn't there. The people have been working there for like 10, 15 years, 20 years sometimes. And critically, a lot of the people working there are from the town. And that coal power plant is that town's lifeblood for income. So twofold, they can't afford to lose people there, and people can't afford to lose the job as well, or leave or go somewhere else because there's nowhere else to really to go. So they brought me in. They said, we need to know a better way of doing this to still have that information collection from meetings, that collaboration component to it. But we don't know how, I don't know what or why. I don't know what we need to do. And also being a coal power plant, they didn't have much of a budget to do a change anyway for the environment. So ran the C-suite workshop, and we got that information as well. And the biggest bugbear was that change process because of people being there for so long and doing the same process for that long. Then we did the staff workshops. People found that yes, the meetings were a waste of time sometimes, and that was the most critical element to it. But we also found that everybody met around the lunch table, like lunchtime. We tend to have lunch times in two shifts, and where everybody sat around and chilled and just had that conversation and that bonding session, right? But then we found also that some people had meetings there. They found solutions from that lunch table. So great. In that case, you know what? The meeting rooms, you can still have a few meeting rooms for that private conversations, but let's add on to this lunch table concept so that the people are more comfortable going there, having a coffee, let their guards down, put some collaboration walls or whiteboards around it as well, so they can write up stuff. If there's a light bulb moment, they can write it down. And we pitched that back to the C-suite. They loved it because why? It was minimal cost, big win. They don't change the culture that much. In fact, it reinforces what they're doing already anyway. And it's more collaboration. You get the results what they wanted. And that was it. Then that was the only time, and hoping not the last time, that I got applause from the C-suite.
Fantastic.
And hey, I love applause, so bring that on.
Brilliant. But obviously, this was solving a really key problem for them in a way that they didn't realize they could solve it cheaply. They didn't realize that they could solve a problem and achieve a win at the same time.
They were afraid of the cost. They see like brochures, go, wow, this whole new fandangled things cost this much. Youch. And it's that mindset that they're afraid, right? You
Mm.
can't go in afraid. You need to explore all avenues for it.
Mm.
I know I keep harping on about it, but it's just the data, being smart with the data, interpreting the data with the view of the culture, the people, and also the strategy piece.
There's another example around a Singapore company with a privacy
Yes.
issue, and they were concerned about trade secrets being overheard in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
So how did your recommendations improve their business?
So again, I won't mention the company, but because of where they're located, often the case of staff wouldn't utilize the meeting spaces. In fact, they'll go out to a common, because they were housed in a business complex. They'll go out into the common areas where there's like tables and chairs for cafes and stuff. And they'll have conversations there. They'll have meetings there. And the staff are oblivious. Anybody can listen in and hear and potentially grab those trade secrets. So when we did this data, we did an analysis and survey. Why are people doing this? Why don't you use the meeting rooms? Why are you going out there? Is because the area that we're located in didn't have many windows. It's kind of like a basement type environment. So they did have windows, but not that many. The meeting rooms were away from the windows and they were central. So it was harsh lighting, not comfortable, not inviting. And again, it raises people's guards. It's harder for them to collaborate. So the recommendation in Simple Win is like, hey, just change it. Have the meeting rooms along the window. Because the critical thing people have said is that sunlight, natural light. They needed that. The reason why they went outside because it was more fresher, open light, and it made it more conducive to having a chat. So the key recommendation was, hey, give them space along the window for the meeting rooms, not particularly for desks or offices, just having along the meeting rooms.
Again, it's a simple solution that delivers on a number of different business outcomes for them.
Yeah, and without that data collection component, you wouldn't know. You only be guessing why they were doing it.
And we talked earlier around how the data and the process can then lead to this change journey. One of the key observations about change is that to change anything, we need to understand it. And especially something where we're looking to change human behavior, it's harder to understand. And so, my question for you, with your psychology background, whether we're seeing the workplace with a mental model that's accurate, or do we have the wrong image of the workplace? Do people who manage workplaces have the wrong mental picture of what this is about?
Mm,
And that could then be limiting some workplaces from
yeah.
making those successful change journeys.
Mm.
Only 30% of transformations succeed.
Interestingly, you asked this question in 2023. With a lot of the businesses have gone hybrid model, right? Because of the whole pandemic. People have basically gotten the taste of a work-life balance as well. And they'll end up working for how they want to work. And early last year, there was that whole process where the places that were mandated to return to work, you found that people were leaving. So the workplace has to be experiential. The workplace is about the experience, and it's not just, yeah, you come here to work. That's it. Everything's clinical. No, no. You come here to offer something which they can't get at home. The benefits of working in the office, whether it's collaboration, whether it's a nicer furniture. I'll be very frank, I've got a lovely 15-month-old daughter. But sometimes I just want to do my work without noise into a space where I can and concentrate. Understanding where they are, you take them along the journey. How have they been affected by whatever's been happened before? How are they working now, even from home? How are they working from home now? Grab bits and pieces from that. If you see a common theme from it, and potentially see how you can incorporate part of that into the office, it's going to go a lot smoother
Mm,
because you're not just transitioning them back in the office, like from couch, sofa, back into really clinical white white desk with a run of
mm.
desk and other chairs, other people, but it's a meld between the two.
It's almost what it brings to mind as you're talking is the difference between the old style of shopping mall,
Mm,
where you turned up to the shopping mall and there were shops,
yep.
and there's an escalator between the floors, and, all you can expect really is shops. Whereas I'd say maybe in the last 10 to 15 years, we've now seen shopping malls evolve with theaters near them, cinemas, bars around the outside, restaurants,
And
play areas for kids. And so you're augmenting this shopping experience, getting the work done, the business of the place
mm,
with the experiences that will be more around the edges, if you like, but will add to the richness of why people are there. Yeah.
no, I agree. I mean, if you look at it, they've shopping centers is more greenery now as well. So you've
Yes.
got that biophilic aspect to it now too. Near my place, they've got a co-working, sorry, this a co-working space as well in the shopping center.
I've always thought that was a really good idea for shopping centers. My husband and I were recently in Hawaii at what used to be the largest open air shopping mall, and it's called Ala Moana, and it does stretch for quite a long way. But there's also a cinema, and we'd shopped all day. The shops are open till 10 p.m. And we finished the day by having a Mai Tai, of course, a bar in
Yeah,
the mall. And I'd never had that experience before, but it was just I guess an example of how we can play with the model.
absolutely. And because it was all about experience,
Mm,
people want the experience now.
mm,
It's all about experience. People
yeah.
want to be more engaged with life in general, whether it's their work life or personal life. They want to be more engaged more.
Speaking of food, before we finish up,
Yes.
just to get to know you a little bit more, what is your favorite meal to cook or to eat? What do you like to sit down to?
Wow. Is anyone going to buy me dinner? There's a Malaysian Singaporean dish called mirabus. Have you heard
I've
of it?
heard of it. I've never had it.
It's
Isn't it?
a potato gravy based noodle. So
Yeah,
the gravy is potato based, but it's noodle, and it's a nonya dish. So a nonya dish is Malay Chinese dish. I'm
very
salivating already.
yeah, that sounds, just
It's
delicious.
so yeah. So anybody can give me a recommendation. Let me know when I get some in Sydney.
Amazing. That sounds like a really good winter meal.
It's a very good winter meal. Unfortunately, I have it throughout the whole year.
And before you go, do you have any final words for our listeners who are wanting to create workplaces that are a beacon of business success and personal success?
Yeah, I think two things, right? So the biggest thing is going with an open mind. Or open mind. There's options there, and the second thing is trust the data. The data doesn't lie. Get the right data. Get the right workplace strategist looking at it. You're going to get options, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of data.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thanks for being here on the show. How can people connect with you if they're looking to talk further?
You can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Workspace Insights on there, and I can connect with them there as well.
We'll include that in the notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Pleasure being here.